I'm curious, what type of employee are you? You can categorize employees, I'm sure, 1,000 different ways. In my mind, there's really three categories. You have your builders, you have your maintainers, and you have your departers. Let me dissect each one of those so you can understand where I'm coming from when I label those buckets. Builders. Builders are your go-to people. These are the people that are proactively thinking about ways to enhance the team, the department, the division, the organization. These people are proactively trying to find ways that add positive impact and value. Another characteristic of a builder is they're adaptable, they're flexible. They realize that life isn't constant all the time, or work isn't constant all the time, and they are willing to shift as needed to make the greatest impact. Another characteristic of a builder is they're always reliable. You can count on them. Sometimes too much. Sometimes we add stress to builders because we always know they're our go-to people, and sometimes we will overload them because we trust that they're gonna get the work done. There's always a yin and a yang. There's always a positive and a negative. Another characteristic of a builder is that they're always looking for ways to grow themselves. They're always looking for ways to understand that they're comfortable and they're confident in what they do, but they know that there's room for growth. These builders are really the people that drive the results within the organization. Let's move to maintainers for a second. So maintainers are people that are gonna do a really good job in the organization. And there's nothing wrong with maintainers. There's no indictment here, but they're not necessarily gonna go above and beyond. They're gonna put in their time, they're gonna do their work, they're gonna do their role, and they're gonna do it at a fairly high level, but they're not necessarily going to put in extra time, do extra work, and they're not necessarily going to be proactive with ideas and thoughts and become a thought leader in ways that you can enhance or positively impact a team, a division, a department, an organization, the results that you drive. So those maintainers are there, and again, they're gonna do really good work, but you can't necessarily lean on them to go above and beyond. And then you have your departers. Your departers are people that you wanna help out or help out of the organization. These people don't add a lot of value. These people typically are anchors in trying to get future progress. These people are roadblocks, they're headwinds, they're hindrances. They're people that don't show up well. They're people that impact a lot of people in a negative way. There's also another departer within there. If you look at the departers, there's really two subcategories within that. One was just what I just explained. The second one is maybe people are leaving the organization. Maybe there's a retirement. Maybe they're moving on to another organization or another role, and those people are departers. They aren't always a challenge other than, are you letting intellectual capital go out the door? A lot of organizations and clients that we work with do not have great succession planning. And so people who are departing and retiring, and if you look at the landscape of the workforce today, you have people that are, it's like a bell, right? You have people that are, majority of them are either retiring or coming into the workforce and not a lot in the middle. So there is a high percentage of people that are departers by default because they're actually leaving the organization. So with those people, how do you capture their intellectual capital? How do you make sure that there's a succession plan that sets the next person up for the highest probability of success? How do you make sure that the next person that's gonna fulfill their seat maybe won't be as good as what they are, but will allow them at least the opportunity to be successful and continue to serve in that role that moves the team, the division, the department, the organization in the right level. When you look at the breakdown of these three buckets, builders, maintainers, departers, a rule of thumb is it typically, not all the time, don't hold me to this, it typically works out like this: 10, 80, 10. You have 10% of the organization that are builders, you have 80% in the middle that are maintainers, and then you have 10% that are departers. And when I say departers in that 10%, those are the people that are dragging you down. Those are the people that don't bring a good attitude to work. Those are the people that want to sabotage everybody else. Those are the people that are disengaged in their work. Here's where a lot of organizations miss the mark. They spend the majority of their time focused on their departers. They try to do everything they can to move that 1 or 2 on the scale from 1 to 10 to a 3 or a 4. And they really get drained. They really feel like they're just spinning their wheels. My challenge, if you look at those 3 buckets, builders, maintainers, and departers, is how do we focus our time on builders? How do we focus on running with the people that want to run and not dragging anybody? I would rather run with 4 or 5 than try to drag 100. How do we make everybody else catch up? And then how do we take those maintainers, those 80% in the middle that are the heart of the organization and they're gonna do a really good role? How do we potentially find, not make, but find opportunity for some of those maintainers to become builders? There are some of those maintainers that might be right on the fence. How do we get them to potentially become builders where they add even more value? Not make them. I don't want them to be voluntold or feel forced to go over. But if there's untapped potential from these people, or they have more potential, or they want to do more, how do we help them move into the builder category? So again, the question is what type of employee are you? That's kind of the first question. Are you a builder? Are you a maintainer? Or are you a departer? The second question is what can you do that enhances wherever you're at within the organization? If you're a builder, how can you continue to build? If you're a maintainer, how can you really decide, do I want to stay in that category? Do I want to move to a builder? What shifts can I make to continuously make sure I'm adding value? And if you're a departer, one that is a negative or an anchor to progress, here's the challenge for you. Either shift your mindset and find ways to get engaged and fulfilled, or leave. Life is too short. There has to be something else out there that is more fulfilling to you, more engaging for you, where you can really become an asset. I don't think that departers are always departers. I think that if you find the right environment for a departer in a different working culture, they will find ways to at least potentially become maintainers or builders because they see what they're doing as opportunity, meaning they get to, not obligation, meaning they have to. And then for organizations, if you do have some people that are departing because of retirement, just kind of natural progression, how are you making sure that you're creating a succession plan that sets the next person up for the highest probability of success and allows the person that's leaving to leave a legacy where their ghost, for lack of a better term, will live on in a positive way and continue to impact the organization long after they've departed and went on to whatever it is they're going into. Let's look at this from a leader lens or a leader standpoint. How do you leverage? And by the way, if you're a leader, leverage should be a word that is in your vocabulary on a daily basis because you just can't not do it all. How are you leveraging your talent and people? Not manipulating, but leveraging them in a way that sets everybody up for success. So let's look at these 3 categories and talk about leverage. You can leverage builders and maintainers, or you can add stress by the way that you interact with them and the way you help them fulfill their role. Let's kind of look at that. So in a positive, how you leverage them is you make sure that they understand authentically and sincerely how much you appreciate the work that they do. I think another thing we can do to leverage as builders and maintainers, for a second, removing departers, is how do we make sure that what they're doing is energy for them or opportunity mindset, meaning they get to do these things. They're good at them. They enjoy doing them. They drive results in the business. They help move the team and the organization forward. How can we make sure that we're removing obligation activities? And again, it's not a perfect world. I'm not saying that everything's going to be 100%, but are there things that they're doing that somebody else could be doing? You can reallocate, not even talking about changing roles or job descriptions, but how could we potentially reallocate some of those tasks to other people? Because here's what you'll find. You'll find that one person's obligation is another person's opportunity. And so how do you leverage that? That's one. Now, let's talk about how we add stress. I think a lot of times we add stress to our builders because we go to them too much. We put too much work on their plate. And there is a tipping point. At some point, there's a tipping point where they might not even tell you, but mentally their mindset shifts to, what are the other people doing? Or why don't you ever involve somebody else? We go to them because they're our go-to. We can trust them. We know they're going to get stuff done. That's a huge asset, but can also be a liability if we tip the scales and provide too much work for them or continuously go too much to them and leave other people out. So thinking about your builders, how are you making sure you're maximizing but not necessarily adding stress? Because you can move a builder backwards, right? If they change their mindset, if they get frustrated, if they get overwhelmed, they could potentially move into that maintainer bucket. And that's the last thing that we want to do as leaders. Let's take a look at your maintainers. I think your maintainers, again, showing them appreciation, making sure they're doing things that are energy for them or opportunity mindset. I think how we add stress to our maintainers is not having clarity that they don't necessarily want to go above and beyond and asking them to go above and beyond. We can have an adverse impact on some of the people on our teams and organizations if we ask them to do too much. So I think with maintainers, it's about a clarity conversation. It's about in what ways do they want to grow? How do they feel like they contribute? What are some of their goals? And can we potentially elevate them into the builder bucket? Or are they just really happy and satisfied with what they're doing in the maintainer bucket, and then we just have to support that? I'll also tell you that things change. You know, what one wants to do at 23 might not be the same thing that one wants to do at 35 or 47 within their career. And so it's not a constant. It's a dynamic environment. And so our goal as leaders is to understand those builders and maintainers at where they're at currently and help fulfill them. The last thing we want to do is allow them to create an environment, or for us to create an environment for them where they're going backwards. Now with departers, I don't have a lot of patience for departers. That's just the way I see things. Some people think that I'm, the world's perfect cloud nine. I just don't understand that mindset. My belief is that it is healthy to knock off the lower 10% of every organization. And I know people are challenged. They're fighting to find people right now. And sometimes a warm body is better than nothing. I would argue that sometimes a warm body is the worst thing that we could have because of the potential cancer, for lack of a better word, it can spread to our other people. So with our departers, I just don't put a lot of stock into them. I remove them quickly and really focus on my maintainers and my builders and allowing them a platform to be as successful as they can possibly be. If you're an employee, I'm curious, which bucket do you fall into? Comment below and let us know. If you're a leader struggling with how to maximize and leverage your builders and maintainers, reach out to us. We would love to help. Best of luck.